the contrast between the Hindu schools of thinking and Buddhist schools. Let me set out the contrast first before attempting to resolve it. The dualistic schools of Hindu thought, by which I mean, for example, the Nyaya, the Vaisheshika, the Sankhya, the Yoga, these schools of Hindu thought, they claim that in addition to the physical body, Sthula Sharira, we have a subtle body, Sukshma Sharira, and that is not subject, it's not a matter of belief. We experience it all the time. We experience life and thought and memories. All the time we are experiencing it. That which you are experiencing as a first-person private experience within yourself, that's the subtle body. So we have a subtle body, Sukshma Sharira. And in addition to that, we have the Atman, the self, self with a capital S. The physical body dies at death, the subtle body goes on for life after life, but when you are enlightened, the subtle body also falls off and you realize you are the unchanging Atman. So physical body, subtle body, Atman, the self. Now along comes the Buddhist and says, physical body and subtle body are matters of experience. Where is this precious Atman of yours? Physical body, series of changes. Subtle body, mind and intellect and memory, another series of changes. Beyond this, what else exists? Everything is temporary, transient. Everything is momentary. Everything is empty. The word which he used, shunyata, emptiness. They have their self-nature, empty of self-nature. That means there is no inherent unchanging nature to anything. That was the Buddhist insight. And it's a very powerful challenge. A very powerful challenge. When the Buddha said, Anityam, Anityam, Sarvam Anityam, temporary, transient, everything is transient. Everything goes away. Kshanikam, Kshanikam, Sarvam Kshanikam. Not only that everything goes away, you see, everything goes away, we know. Everybody dies and we also will have to die. That does not really bother us as long as everything stays for just enough for my purpose. If the house can stay steady for 50 years or 100 years, it's good for me. I'm going to use it for 50 years or 100 years. After that, doesn't matter. If the body lives for 30, 40, 50, 60 or 80 years, good enough for me. Because I'll do whatever I can in that period of time. If the cookie melts in my mouth and is gone in 10 seconds, that's also good enough for me because I can taste it in those 10 seconds. So temporary is okay with us. We really don't mind temporary. Impermanent, we don't mind. But Buddha goes on further, spoil sport that he is. He says, Kshanikam, Kshanikam. Not only temporary, momentary. Everything changes from moment to moment. It does not stay steady for, let alone for decades and centuries, it does not stay steady from 1 second to the next. That may sound like a startling claim from our common sense point of view, but as we go on, modern sciences more and more has shown that everything is a whirling mass of particles. A whirling mass of change continuously all around us. Just from our perspective, some things seem more steady than others. Kshanikam, Kshanikam, Sarvam Kshanikam. And hence, Shunyam, Shunyam, Sarvam Shunyam. Void, all is void. And then finally, Dukkham, Dukkham, Sarvam Dukkham. Hence, because it is transient, because it is momentary, because it is void, everything is of the nature of dukkha, suffering. If you feel the suffering, you're feeling the reality. If you feel pleasure and happiness, you are deluded. Because there was suffering before it, there is suffering at the end of it, and there is suffering underneath it. Any joy that we have. So real spoil sport. The Buddha. With a hard truth. Now, in this mass of change, where is this permanent Atman you're speaking about? So the Buddhist launches a two-pronged attack. One is on your permanent soul, your immortal soul. There's no such thing, the Buddhist says. And the second one is the partner to your immortal soul, the poor God, an immortal God, unchanging reality called God. The Buddhist launches an attack on that too. Where is this God you speak about? Both are equally impossibilities. An immortal God sitting somewhere way up in heaven. Where? And your own immortal soul you speak about, Atman. Where? You can't prove it. And thus began a 1,000-year battle between, literally 1,000 years, from around 2005, a little after the Buddha, when the philosophical schools of Buddhism began to grow strong, till the disappearance of Buddhism from India around 800, 900 AD. So for more than 1,000 years, there was a philosophical debate, a battle between the Hindu schools and the Buddhist schools. And it was good because it led to a flowering of philosophy. Very sophisticated philosophy developed over 1,000 years. And you have got text after text. The Hindus trying to defend the immortal soul, Atman, defend the existence of God. And the Buddhists attacking both. The great Hindu logician Udayanacharya, around 10th century AD. There is the famous story of how he fought against the Buddhists. He has two classic books which are still studied. One is called Atma Tattva Viveka, where he tries to prove with extremely subtle reasoning that there must be a permanent, unchanging consciousness at the back of everything changing. Otherwise, this life is not possible. He tries to explain that. And then the second book is Nyaya Kusumanjali, where he gives 9 proofs for the existence of Ishvara, of God, against the Buddhist opponent. So this kind of a great logician, there's a story that he goes to Jagannath temple in Puri, and for darshan, for the darshan of Lord Jagannath. And at that time, the doors are closed because offering is going on. The bhoga offering to the Lord is going on. The doors are closed. So there is a very funny Sanskrit shloka attributed to Udayanacharya. It seems he composed it when he saw the doors closed. He said, "My Lord, now you are so proud and you shut your doors to me. But when the Buddhists come and attack you and try to disprove your existence, you run to me for proving your existence. Now you won't let me go in and I have your audience and all, but you are helplessly dependent upon me to prove your existence when the Buddhist comes and attacks you." Anyhow, humor apart, this was the situation. Now, what does Advaita bring to the mix? Swami Vivekananda, you wanted a text. Swami Vivekananda, Practical Vedanta lecture number 4, where he takes up the Buddhist position, the Hindu dualist position, and reconciles it with the Advaita non-dualist position. There's a lot more to be said about this, but I'll mention just this. What does Swami Vivekananda say? Look at the classic example of the snake and the rope. It is not that there is a rope and on top of that there is a snake. That you drive the snake away and then you get the rope. No. These are not two different things, a rope and a snake. The rope is mistaken as the snake. What you think is the snake is the rope itself. Mistakenly, snake. Taken for what it is, rope. In ignorance, snake. In knowledge, rope. Similarly, he says, both the Buddhist and the Hindu dualist are right. The Hindu dualist is right when he says there is an immortal reality called the soul or God or whatever it is. And the Buddhist is right when he says that there is nothing apart from this, which you call God or soul. It is the same thing which you regard in ignorance as a mass of whirling change, which we see as this world. And in knowledge, you will find all of this is nothing other than Brahman. It's not that there is a soul and there is a body, mind and universe separately. Advaita says there is only one thing. In ignorance, it is regarded as world, as body, as mind, as jiva, individual, jiva and jagat. In knowledge, when you get Brahmajnana, this very jiva jagat becomes none other than Brahman for you. That's why enlightened persons will keep on saying, I see God everywhere. What does that mean? That person does not say, I see the world and I see God in heaven. Which Vedantin says that? Nobody. They all say, I see God everywhere. Which means, everywhere means where? Here. He might as well say, I see the rope in the snake. He never says, I see a rope and a snake. No. It is what you consider to be the snake. The person who knows, he says it's a rope. It's what we consider to be a mass, a changing mass, a physical mass of change called the body, a mental mass of change called the mind. Known in reality, it is nothing other than Satchidananda. So this is how Vivekananda reconciles it. Now, is it accepted? No. There are scholars who accept it, there are scholars who do not. On both on the Vedantic side and on the Buddhist side, there are scholars and monks and teachers who will not agree that the two are ultimately the same. I remember speaking to a Buddhist Lama in Delhi University. There was a seminar. The Lama spoke, I also spoke, and afterwards, a person in the audience, a lady, said to the Lama, Holy Lama, what the Swami was saying and what you say, they seem to be very similar. This is the problem with the Hindu mind. They immediately find the oneness behind everything. They don't stress the differences, they stress the unity. So, they seem to be very similar, what you are saying and what the Swami is saying. I spoke from the Advaita perspective, and he spoke from the Tibetan Buddhist perspective. And so the Lama, he smiled and he said, no, actually they are different, there are a lot of differences. And I stepped in doing the Hindu thing, saying, yes, there are differences, but there are different paths that lead to the same conclusion, And then the Buddhist, not to be outdone, the Lama said, yes, same meeting point, but after that again different. So there are people on both sides who would not agree. But there are scholars who do agree. If you read a book called The Central Philosophy of Buddhism, T.R.V. Murthy, you will see Tibetan Buddhism, there is Mahayana, Madhyamaka Buddhism of Nagarjuna. It's explained in terms which are very Advaitic, non-dualistic. I've also had occasion to mention Sam Harris, who's a very popular atheist speaker here in the United States. And he says religion is mostly hypocrisy and nonsense, superstition. But, he says, there are these two traditions. One is Advaita Vedanta, and the other one is Tibetan Dzogchen Buddhism, which have a core of truth in them, and it's the same truth both are speaking about. There is a professor of religion, a philosopher actually, in Australia, a lady, Miri Al-Bahari. And I find in her work, she is primarily a scholar of Buddhism, and the way she interprets Mahayana Buddhism, especially Madhyamaka Buddhism of Nagarjuna, is very close to Advaita Vedanta of Shankara. And she mentions it explicitly, they two are very close. Why I mention her is that she is coming to give this talk about Advaita Vedanta and the problem of consciousness in NYU next year. And I have invited her to come and speak here to us. So I really hope she does come and speak to us. But she speaks about exactly